Well, hello my card making friends. Thank you for joining me once again here on my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I made that card that you just saw a brief look of using these stamps from the Ton. I used the You're in My Thoughts stamp on the inside, and on the cover I used the brushed U die, this one right here, also from the Ton. And then from the stamp itself, I used the Thinking Of piece for the front of my card. So this is a gorgeous stamp set. I really love it, and I did a haul video on this stamp set earlier. In addition, I used also from the Ton these stitched rectangle dies for both the on top of the card for a colored base. I used the bigger one, and then I used the next size in for the piece that I labeled or layered my stamp on. So this is the stamp, and I did a previous video of how I colored it. I laid a base of all my Copic colors on it, and then I went over it with my Prismacolor colored pencils. And that's how I get the detail in. And you know, I was making this card as I was watching a movie, and you know, I take my time. I'm not in a rush, and I'm not trying to make, you know, large volumes of cards. So this is, you know, this is my outlet. This is how I do my art, and I like doing cards because they're, you know, little mini pieces of art, and I, you know, pour my heart in them. I'm thinking about the particular person that I'm making this for as I'm making it, and so they're made with love, as I'm sure all of you do that as well. So right now, now I fussy cut the this poppy. These are called poppies, and I fussy cut the entire flower out, and I used 80-pound neenah white cardstock when I stamped this and then colored it, and I will link to that video below if you want to see the coloring. And in that video I primarily focus on the detail work that I do with the colored pencils. And right now I'm just using an X-Acto knife to cut out those inner pieces, just so there's not so much white on these flowers. Now I used a variety of Copic colors in the greens, pinks, and reds. Again, when I used Copics, I just laid down the colors. What you want to do with Copics is you want to have basically three colors. You want to have a lighter, a medium, and a dark. And I laid down my base, and I wasn't trying to get the detail in with my Copics because I knew I was going to use my colored pencils for the detailed work. So I just lay in the color, and then I come back with my Copics. So I'm just finishing up the final fussy cutting of this image and getting off a few of the tattered ends. And here's a close-up and then the overall view. So now I'm going to show you how I die cut the U. I used some green craft foam, and this stuff is really awesome because it's got a sticky backing on it, and so once you place your die on it and you run it through the Big Shot, you have the sticky part already on it that is going to be sticking to your card. Now the U had some adhesive on it from being in the packaging, so it was a little bit hard to get off of there. But you can see how this is nice. It cuts beautifully on this craft foam, and that's what's going to give you a little bit of dimension on the card front. So now here is the brushed U that I cut out of this beautiful metallic paper. It was just a pack of metallic paper, and I picked the green because I thought it would go really well with the flowers as they're colored. And you can see this U that was die cut out of the craft foam. I'll put the metallic U on top of it, and now I'll have a nice U with a little bit of dimension. Now another way of doing this, of course, is cutting out like 3 of those brushed dies in your big shot and then using adhesive to glue those 3 together. But I like using craft foam when I can. And right here I'm using multi-medium matte. I like this stuff. I use it in my mixed media quite a bit, but this is a wonderful adhesive. It is quite powerful. It works wonderful in card making. A little bit goes a long way, and I put this fine tip applicator on it so that I can get, have control of it and get the adhesive exactly where I want. And the reason why I like this is I have, a little bit of time to fuss with the die image to get it, placed exactly right. Now, one thing I did when I was making this U is I kind of bent my metallic paper, so I ended up cutting another U and placing over it, and you can see I got some glue on it as well. So I ended up cutting another metallic U and just placing over this U. And I was very, very careful to not get glue on it or bend it. So lesson learned there. And I did that off camera just so you wouldn't be having to see that same thing again. But you can see there it was a little bit bent. So now I cut a piece of neenah white 110-pound cardstock, and I at 4 1/4, and I'm scoring it at 5.5 inches, and I'm going to fold it in half and use my Teflon bone folder to put the nice crease in it. And while that little instrument right there is small, it is expensive, but it's worth it because it doesn't put any creases or dents in your paper. I don't know what it is about that particular tool, but it's much better than the ones that come with punch boards and stuff. So there's my card base, and now I want to figure out how I'm going to place my flower and everything on there. And I decided I was going to do, using that next size in, I was going to use it as my base for placing my flower, but I didn't want just a solid white background, so I'm going to cut out the white background because I want to use Tonic Studios Nouveau embellishment mousse on it. So I placed the die on top of my card base, so I was positive that that was the size I was going to want, and I'm die cutting it out on my Big Shot right now. Now I really like these rectangle stitched dies because they put a nice little stitch on both the inside and outside of the piece of paper that you're using it on, so you can make nice frames and everything using these. You can't really see it here on the video, but it is a nice little tiny detail that the recipient will see when they receive the card. So I'm pulling out my craft mat now so that I can do my Tonic Studios Nouveau embellishment mousse, and I'm going to use a nice pretty metallic green. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I think it'll really show off the red in the flowers. Okay, so I'm pulling out the stencil that I've chosen, and I'm just kind of eyeballing this and trying to figure out how I want to place it over my card base. And I decided, I should probably adhere this down to my craft mat so it doesn't move around on me. I want to get a nice, crisp, clear image with the Nouveau mousse because it does give you a bit of a texture, because it's a little bit thick, and so it's going to be raised off of the card. So I decided to go ahead and tape it down on a couple of the corners there where I know I'm not going to have the mousse, and then tape the stencil down on top of it. And I just take a plastic painting knife that I purchased from Michael's. They're very inexpensive, and simply spread the Nouveau Mousse over the top of that. This is actually the first time I've used this product. I received it recently, and I did a haul video on it, and it was actually really fun and not complicated at all, and I really enjoyed it. I bought a few colors to try out. It's not something that I think I need every color in, but I definitely enjoyed using it. It's like a thick, kind of like a toothpaste kind of thickness, and I wanted to make sure that all those little squares were filled in. So I just kind of kept manipulating that paste into those little squares on there. And I wanted it to not cover the entire card. I wanted there to be some white space without any of the Nouveau Mousse. It's supposed to be, my envision was for it to be just kind of subtle in the background, and be a nice little pairing with the poppies, the colored poppies that I did. So what's nice about this is you can just take the excess and put it back in the container and put the top on. I would imagine that it would get dried out pretty quickly if you didn't keep the top on it. And I'm just cleaning off my little palette knife there with a baby white. Right, so here I am gently pulling off the stencil and making sure not to disturb any of the texture that I just laid down, and taking my palette knife and just kind of cleaning off the edge where it went over just a little bit. And I was really pleased with how it came out. It's not showing up on camera too well, but it definitely has the nice texture element that I was hoping it would have. Alright, so now I'm taking my flower and my U, and I'm in my base there, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to assemble my card. And I think ultimately I liked the U being on top and the flowers being on the bottom. And of course that's the base itself, and white on white, it was a little too much white for me. So I decided I needed to set it off with a red base. So I am hunting some red paper down right now, going through my paper stacks and matching it to the reds and pinks in my flower. And now I'm testing it out to kind of see if I like that look, and that is what I wanted. So it is ultimately the direction I went. And I liked the small little squares up in the top right hand corner as opposed to down lower. And I showed you the cardstock stack that I used. Now here I'm taking out that the largest rectangle die, because I'm going to cover that the top of the white base, card base now with it. So I'm just die cutting. I'm using the die cut, and cutting it out on my Big Shot right now. And then I'm going to simply place it on the top of my card base. And again, this is also going to have those cool little stitches that go all the way around it. At the end of this video, I've got some close-ups of the card, and perhaps the stitches will show up. I'm not sure if I got them in the photos or not, but you might be able to see the stitches. I like that set along with the wonky stitches really well. Now here I'm just using my ATG gun and laying down my fixative on the back of the red base, and I'm going to put it on the white card base, and then I'll put the second piece that has the Nouveau texture on it on top of that. So that way I have a nice little frame to set off the green of the mousse. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is adhere that white base that I'm going to affix the colored flowers to the actual card base. And I'm just using my ATG gun again and laying down the fixative. And I'm just going to eyeball it when I place it. I don't measure anything, I just eyeball it and place it on there. Okay, so now that I've decided where I want to place my flowers, I am putting my score tape on the back. I love this tape, and I use it whenever I want to make absolutely sure that something isn't going to come off. And I probably overdid it with the tape here, but I wanted this to to absolutely stay on the card and not come off. And so I had gone over just a little bit right there, and I was just trimming it off there. So lay this down. This is nice because it's double-sided, so it sticks on the one, and then once you're ready to put it on your card, you just take off the top layer and you can stick it on your card. And I especially decided to use this because of that Nouveau Mousse and the texture on it. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to come off. Sometimes I have a hard time getting those to lift off, so those pointy reverse tweezers are a really good tool to have. So as I'm placing the flowers down here, I really like how it looks when the edges of the flowers, or in this case the leaves, um, go over the edge. And I have left it that way in the past on cards. I like that look. However, on this card I did end up cutting off those edges of those leaves. I'm almost sorry I did that, but I didn't put a backing on this flower before I laid it down, so the underneath was not presentable. You could see the Copic coloring that had seeped through the cardstock, and so it had to be cut off. Now, had I put a backing on it, it was pretty, then I definitely would have left the leaves as they are, because I like that look when it hangs over. So right now I am deciding which of the sentiments that I want to use with the U. And ultimately, as I said in the beginning of this video, I decided to go with the thinking of. And I always make my cards on the go in terms of I don't really think about how I want to do it beforehand. I just kind of have a concept, and typically it's whatever the main focal point will be. In this case, I knew I wanted to do those flowers because I got them recently in a haul, and so the rest of the card is just kind of coming along. So what I'm doing now is I'm going through my scraps and I'm pulling out some different greens and even a white and trying to figure out which one I want to put the words thinking of on. So I decided to go with this mint green. I thought it would pull out the mint green and the leaves really well. And I am going to use white embossing powder on the sentiment. Alright, so I pull out my watermark ink to emboss this. It's a sticky ink, and you just put the powder on top and kind of flick off the excess, and then you use a heat gun to heat it up. And it's really cool. I love watching it melt under the heat gun. See it come to life like this. Alright, so now that I have that, I'm trying to decide what I actually want to do with that label. And ultimately I decide I'm just going to cut it and make some little fishtail ends and place it above the U on the card. So I'm pulling out my Cool Tack, and I love this stuff because it's clear, but it'll give it the dimension as if you were using foam tape, but it looks nicer on a card because you don't see the white foam tape. And so this is going to be placed above where I have the U on my card. I'm just admiring my handiwork, and I'm peeling off the backing on this Cool Tack. Sometimes this is one of my biggest challenge. I have a hard time getting the backings off of the different adhesives and paper tapes and all that kind of stuff. So now it's time to place the U, and as I told you earlier, all you have to do is take the backing off, and it already has the sticky tape on the back, so I just place the U where I want it on my card front there and press it down gently so that I don't damage the foil, and cut off the excess. And right now I'm sitting here debating, boy, I'd really like to keep those leaves on, but as you can see see the Copic coloring behind them, and I have to cut them off. That's just all there is to it. That little bud was kind of hanging off, and so I didn't want to cut it, so I decided to just bend it in just a little bit and adhere it with some multi-matte medium. And I just cut off the leaves now, and you can see it kind of gives the card a whole different look, but it's still okay. But I like it when things are over the edges. So now I'm trying to decide what to do with the inside. I always like to do a little something on the inside rather than just leave it plain. And what I've decided to do here is go ahead and pull out the stamp again, and I put it in my MISTI so that I could get proper placement. And because I want the stamp to go off over the edge, I'm pulling out one of the tools that were released recently so that you could put it up like that and the stamp can kind of go over the edge, but you still have nice straight placement with your card base. So here I'm deciding exactly where I want the card to be placed on there, and trying to decide like what kind of color I want to do. I don't plan on coloring it in, I just want to do the outline of the flower itself and then put that sentiment on the inside. And my thought is, even if I'm writing quite a bit, I can write over that color. So here I'm pulling out my color samples and deciding what color what ink I want to use on that stamp for the inside of my card. And ultimately I decided on Blushing Bride from Stampin' Up. And I think in the future it would be better if I did a second generation stamp on that rather than a first, because it was a little bit darker than I had intended. So next time I'll make sure to do a second generation stamping with it so that it's lighter in color. And now from the stamp set I'm pulling out the sentiment that I wanted to put on the inside, which is "You're in my thoughts." And so I played around with a couple of different placements for it, but ultimately I decided it would look the best in that bottom lower left-hand corner. So I pull out my Hero Arts Memento black ink. I love that ink for sentiments on the insides of my cards just because it has a very nice crisp ink, and it works best for sentiments in my opinion. And I like using the MISTI because if I don't get, apply enough pressure, put enough ink on, I can just do it again and get it nice and dark exactly the way I want it. So there you go, there's the top and the inside. Now there's just one more thing I want to do to finish up this card, and that is to put on some little raindrops. So these are from the ton, and I'm not exactly sure what they're called, but I have some really tiny ones, and then this package that I just bought from the ton, there's bigger ones and little smaller ones in there. So I'm looking at the two and trying to decide what it is I want. And that container that I keep all my sequins and stuff in is from Darice, D-A-R-I-C-E. I purchased it on Amazon, but I know they have them at several places, a Simon Says Stamp, etc. And they're the perfect size because they hold your little embellishments, and they're easy to see through the containers and get to pull them out and work on them. And you can see that it holds, gosh, I think like 48 or something like that. And I started to use my reverse tweezers on this, and then I think ultimately I pulled out my little, it's not a katana, but it's something else that has a sticky end on it. I just purchased it recently and I can't remember the name of it. But I ultimately pulled that out and used it rather than the tweezers because I was having some difficulty. So I play around with these a little bit and try to get the right placement. The rule of thumb that I try to keep in mind when I'm doing this kind of a thing is odd numbers, so 3s and 5s, and you know, I just keep playing around with it until I see something that I like. So, alright, so now that I've decided on the layout that I want for these little raindrops, I pull out my multi-matte medium and my little tool that's got the sticky end that I just recently bought, the Tonto, to pull those up. So I was having a little bit of trouble in the beginning there, but ultimately I got it to work. So I just put down a little drop of the multi-matte medium and then place the embellishment on top of it. And I love this, again, I love this adhesive because it dries clear. And so even if, I don't know, I get a little too much on there, it's not a big deal. It's white when you put it down, but it dries clear. And then I just tap it down and make sure that I can get air through the tip, and I never have any problems with it clogging up on me. So a little tip there for you. So there's my finished card. You can see the stamping on the inside. Here's the close-up. You can see a little bit of the texturing on the embellishment mousse and the raindrops, or raindrops, and the metallic U and the detail on the flowers. And I'm really pleased with this card. I think it turned out really well, and whomever receives it, I'm sure they are going to love it. So that's it for me, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I wish you a very wonderful and blessed day. Thank you. Bye-bye.